What's up, everybody? Happy Monday, happy post-holiday, happy December. Yo, Patrick Sheridan, what's up, sir? Good to see you. Been a long time. Need to catch up at some point. I'm just coming on a Monday night. Giants are getting killed by the Patriots, so not watching the football. And I've been meaning to do this for a while. Hey, Brooklyn Miss is here. Let's fucking go. Kirsta Reddy. Gabe is here. Auntie Mosby's. Thanks for being here. Yep, I am coming on, and I'm in a salty ass mood. So gonna talk about, and Justin is here. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Appreciate y'all. We do not do guest hosts unless it's on purpose. Desert Mammoth is here. Yo, Jersey in the house. Brother Sammy. Cool handle. If you got a cool screen name, I'm gonna shout you out. If I know you, I'm gonna shout you out. But I'm here tonight to talk about Grandpa Rick Beato. The old man yells at cloud. Not a whole lot, but when I feel like our reputation as metalheads and metal gets impugned, besmirched by boomers, I'm gonna call it out. Incidentally, I've been feeling very salty lately. Normally I'm like, oh, I'm gonna just be me, and I just, Ghost Cult, we exist in our own little bubble with the other 100 music websites. I see a whole bunch of people popping up, posting news. I see weird random websites and Facebook pages posting supposed news that's like just factually inaccurate and stupid. So you got to be really discerning about where you get your music from, where you get your news from, where you get your content from. And, if it's going to be us, cool. I really appreciate every single person that's out there supporting us. If it's not going to be you, it's not going to be us, that's fine too, because you know what? There's a lot to go around, and there's a lot of room for all of us. So anyway, the best experience to watch this, if you're brand new here, is, as always, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook. We're also hanging out on TikTok. And, I like it to be a two-way conversation. So I'm going to do something I normally don't do. I really don't do reaction videos much on the channel anymore. They don't do much for us. But we're going to watch and react Rick Beato's video about metal and why he made this video. Like, who in the F knows why Rick chose to do this? I am confuzzled. And I'll I don't know if this is going to get demonetized or not, but feel free to drop us a tip. I'll drop the tip menu in a few minutes. And I have the window open already. I'm so smart. All right. I made a little thumbnail here. You can check it out. Here's Rick, who I like. Like, I'll start by saying I actually really like Rick Beato. The vast majority of people who discuss metal are not metal and music makers, or rock or metal. Let's just say the big blanket of heavy metal, rock, metal, hard rock, butt rock, metalcore, new metal, death metal, black metal. And the reality is a lot of these folks are just on the web giving their opinion. I have been a music journalist for almost 20 years. I've done over 1,000 interviews. I photographed thousands of shows. I've edited 30, 40,000 articles on the web. Either I wrote or edited someone else's work. Ghost Cult has been around for 13 years. I played in bands for 20 years. I have a relatively new band that is trying to slowly get off the ground. So I feel like I have a little bit of basis from what I speak. And Rick, whether you like him or not, he's old, he doesn't really understand or relate to us. He's trying to relate to us. And Rick has an exemplary background as a music producer. He has produced countless hit records. He has won Grammys. He has platinum records under his belt. He's a longtime studio guy, and he kind of came along 10 years ago into YouTube, where he was just breaking down songs and doing music theory and why certain things are catchy and what makes a hit record and production techniques and things like that. And he's had many, many experts on, and then he became a really good interviewer. And he's done some of my favorite interviews with Maynard James Keenan and Les Claypool of Primus, So word up. So let's talk a little, I generally like Rick, but he does have often some boomer takes, and he doesn't seem to understand metal. Whenever he talks about metal, he rarely understands it, you know? And he's very quick. Like if he interviews Maynard and Maynard's like, I'm not a metal fan, and like, you know, I don't even like progressive rock that much. I like Cocteau Twins and Susie and the Banshees and The Cure. And he's like well fast to agree on that stuff. But you know, he's knowledgeable and I respect him. And he's done, I will say also, he's done a lot for the community in terms of fighting back against AI and these copyright strikes, which is kind of the reason I don't do all that much reaction videos, is because we were getting flagged and strikes, and we're monetized, not making a lot of money, but some money. And you know, I appreciate the good that Rick has done. He went to Congress and testified about record labels kind of aggressively taking down, you know, videos meant for education and tribute and respect and review. These things are fair use and should not be, you know, I can't tell you, the major record companies have like whole teams dedicated to taking down people's posts. It's stupid. Okay. Quite a few people watching on YouTube and Instagram. I appreciate you all. All right. Let's talk for a second. We ran our brand new interview today, some minutiae. We ran our new interview today with Paulo of Trivium. Super honored to interview him again. Trivium was previously Ghost Cult Album of the Year 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, in the plague year of 2021. And their new EP, Struck Dead, slaps. And if that's where they're going as a band, I'm here for it. Hear about the new Trivium EP and where they're going as a band next. Also, my interview with Billy Biohazard ran last week. New Biohazard album out now, Divided We Fall. We're getting to the end of the year with our albums of the year list coming soon at Ghost Cult and all kinds of jazz. So stay tuned for that. And again, I'll be back. Just a little scheduling announcement. We will have a new video. I might do another live stream tomorrow. We'll see what the schedule looks like. I will definitely have a new video interview going up Wednesday morning. Also, my live stream will happen as usual back on Thursday. We did it early last week with the holiday, and I do hope everybody is okay. Holidays are sometimes stressful and no fun with your family or no family. So much love. And if you were celebrating, cool. And if you're not, that's also cool. And if you're not okay, feel free to DM me because I will literally be there for you. Anybody in the world. I don't care. I don't want to lose one more rock soldier, as the Ace Frehley song goes. So, so I'll be back Thursday with my weekly show to recap the whole week of music, metal, drama, concerts, tour dates. So much stuff already happening as we're careening toward the end of the year. And then just once again, another reminder that I have another podcast, the Glacially Musical Podcast, Beer, Metal, and Swearing. We are continuing our series on Queensryche this week. So I'm really excited about that. And let's just drop the tip menu, just the tip. Feel free to give us a tip. I appreciate any support. And here's what we do and when we do. I am going to try to get through this thing. We could use some tips today because hopefully we are not going to get flagged for sharing this video because, you know, Rick, it would be ironic if we got taken down by Rick, who is the champion against takedowns. You know, we won't get taken down, but you know, and again, like I said, I really do respect him, but at the same time, his take on metal is wildly inaccurate. I'm not gonna front. Wildly inaccurate. Here's our Ko-fi. Here's our Cash App. We also take Venmo. We take PayPal. All the things. You can get a super chat or a super like or thanks on YouTube. That's also cool. And Facebook is like too many posts, too many links. We are also giving away tickets to God Forbid. We found out today that Nora had to drop off the God Forbid mini tour, God Forbid, Bleeding Through, and Darkest Hour, not in that order, and that Overcast is joining. So again, killer. Proto Boston metalcore. Killer. Very killer. So there's our Cash App. So let's talk about Rick, man. Rick made this video, Where Have the Metalheads Gone? And I will let you make up your own determination. What's up, Rob? Rob is also here. You know, make up your own mind after we watch this thing, and I'll stop and comment on it. But I think it's super interesting that yeah, I'm gonna play the video so you can watch it right here. And basically what he's saying is the current crop of bands, like in general, metal is not as popular as it used to be, one. Two, there are legacy bands, but most of the new bands that are even doing anything close to metal, metalcore, rock, whatever, none of them are really competing with the most popular pop artists in the world. And he uses Spotify as his barometer, which is mistake number one. I don't think Spotify is a good barometer of rock and metal. I understand why popular bands are popular. I don't hate pop music. Some pop music is awesome. A good song is a good song. Sometimes I love a good song. But specifically his take about metal is just wild. So I'm gonna take Rick out. I'm gonna share my screen. And let's find the Rick Beato video. Bum, ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum. So Rick's video is Where Have All the Metalheads Gone? And I'm going to play it for you now. So, and again, for y'all on TikTok, you may not get to appreciate this, but everybody else should be able to see this. So,
where have all the metalheads gone? Over the last 15 years, there has been a noticeable decline in metal listeners. So I'm going to give you the top bands of the last 15 years that are contemporary bands.
So right off the bat, Rick says, in his personal opinion, that the last 10 or 15 years, metal listeners are not there anymore, right? Wild, just a wild, not based in reality thing. It was a Spotify numbers only taken. That's his jam and his whole friend group's jam. But it also shows a lack of curiosity on his part to what's actually going on. Stormland, 100%. And in our group here, Anti-Moz Beast has music out, by the way, that's brand new. Stormland put out a new EP. Support these guys, support the underground. But we're absolutely bugging out take right off the bat. He's talking about the last 10 or 15 years, and he's using Spotify as his metric. Listeners are not there anymore. Let's go on.
People listen using a streaming platform. And since Spotify is the one that actually publishes their numbers, that's the one that we can use. So we'll start with Bring Me the Horizon. Has 13.6 million. Next up is Ghost, 9.8. Pierce the Veil, 9.7. Falling in Reverse, 8.7. Bad Omens, 7.0. Five Finger Death Punch, 6.7 million monthly listeners. Sleep Token, 5.9 million. A Day to Remember, 4.9. Motionless in White, 4.9. Volbeat, 4.8. I Prevail, 4.6. Spirit Box, 3.1. Architects, 2.7. Gojira, 2.2, and so on and so forth.
All right, I'm going to stop right there. Again, I appreciate everybody for rocking with me. I'm going to stop and start this video a few times. Thank you for patience. So what are all those bands have in common? Stormland says, that said, the separation between all ages 18 and 21 plus shows and venues likely furthered a lot of gaps between kids into metal and folks his age. True. I know it's created a big blind spot for you. Fair enough, Stormland. Great point. So I'm going to address that later. He rattled off a bunch of bands who have the most listeners, and the majority of these bands are bands under 30 who are metalcore, or just about 30. Of those bands that are said to be really metal, Ghost, Volbeat. You want to fight about Sleep Token? I don't. I think Sleep Token's excellent. Not everybody likes them. I get it. The rest of those bands are very commercial. I mean, Bad Omens rules, Architects rules. You didn't have Parkway Drive in there. Bring Me the Horizon is very popular and is becoming a festival headliner all over the world, but they are not as popular in America as they would be somewhere else in the world, like Europe, where they're from. Or not from Europe, but you know what I'm saying. And then, yeah, it's just wild to me that this is his basis. But okay, fine. This is what he's comfortable with. Well, Spotify publishes the numbers, so we're going to use them. It's the same thing as saying, like, well, I ranked #1 in Google, but I also spent $1 million of Google ads. So, of course, I ranked #1 in Google. Do we know how the sausage is made in Google search? We do not. And marketing, by the way, is my bread and butter. I'm a professional marketing expert. Rick goes on, and he's going to talk about and Gojira, right? So Gojira's got very popular, like doubled their Spotify numbers in the last year and a half because of the Olympics and the virality of them. And you can make a case about Ghost also becoming like a virally huge band because of TikTok. And then he's going to talk about legacy bands that are older than 10 years or 15 years. And that's the next group. So let's continue. Rick continues.
There's only one band that has over 10 million monthly listeners, which is Bring Me the Horizon at 13.6. Now let's do a comparison of heritage bands, older bands, if you will. And we're going to do them by their current monthly listeners. The top tier, which are 20 million plus monthly listeners. Number one is Linkin Park with 53.7 million monthly listeners. Metallica, 31.4. System of a Down, 24.8. Limp Bizkit, 21.9. Next, we have acts that are 10 to 20.
All right. So in this next batch, you are definitely talking about your arena and festival, and in some cases, stadium headliners, right? Linkin Park, whatever you want to say about their new singer and their recent album, just finished a sold-out arena tour around the world, right? And Metallica is as big as they have ever been. They just finished touring Australia and New Zealand. They just played in the Middle East. They have one more show in the Middle East at the end of this week to close out their like fourth year in a row or third year in a row on the back of that 72 Seasons album. System of a Down toured baseball stadiums, a handful of them this summer, as a precursor to probably a huge stadium tour next year or the year after. They're doing European arenas, which they have never done next year. Insane. Linkin Park was always a huge popular band. They've got a couple of songs in the Billion Club, which we'll talk about in a minute when Rick talks about it. And Limp Bizkit, who is somehow more popular now than they ever were. This band was hated 25 years ago, and they are beloved now from probably my generation of fans. But okay, continue, Rick, on some of these other bands.
20 million monthly listeners. Disturbed, 17.5. Black Sabbath, 17.3. Deftones, 17.1. Slipknot, 15.2. Ozzy, 14.5. Papa Roach, 13.6. Rammstein, 13.3. Skillet, 12.1. Avenged Sevenfold, 11.3. Alice in Chains, 10.6. And
all right, before he goes on, that next batch, you have Ozzy and Black Sabbath, of course, not just because of right now. Ozzy transcended metal and rock to be a pop culture icon, so that automatically helps them. I love seeing Alice in Chains in there. Wild, some of these other bands that are in here. Most of them are arena or stadium or festival headliners, right? Deftones, also because they had like an incredible wave of popularity the last few years, are as big as they have ever been. I just saw them play an arena last spring. It was incredible. Some of that could be because of the younger generation, but for the majority of it, that is a band 30 years into their career. 30 years into their career, they have one of their best records this year, and they have a hugely successful 2 arena tours. What's up, Waz? Good to see you, Wazzy. Troy Seal, welcome back. Suburban Dad is here. What's up, Suburban Dad? More Rick.
And then we have, I guess we'll call our mid-tier, which is 5 to 10 million monthly listeners. Once again, these are heritage bands that have been around since really before 2010. Motley Crue, 9.7. Rage Against the Machine, 9.5. Iron Maiden, 8.4. Pantera, 7.7. Megadeth, 6.4 million. And Godsmack, 5.2 million.
And I think I didn't mention Disturbed in that previous group, because of Sound of Silence. They have an enormous, streaming following now because of Sound of Silence, not because of the rest of their career. They have a very solid career as a long time, again, a 25-year long band. So is Godsmack, a little more than 25 years. I don't think they're that great, but they are not an arena band, but they're like an amphitheater band or a co-headline type of band. Motley Crue should retire. Rage Against the Machine is retired. So I'm not surprised by some of those things. What else? Oh, Godsmack. Oh, Sudden Salerno. Ooh.
Then we have our established acts. Okay. These are acts that are 1 to 5 million monthly listeners. Motorhead is at 4.2, Judas Priest 4.3, Slayer 3.2, Testament 1.1, and Anthrax 1.1. Next up.
All right. Those are some of my favorite bands. There's thrash metal. Metallica has transcended thrash metal to become kind of a rock band. that does thrash. That still plays their old thrash hits, but they're basically a rock band. Most of these bands, the reason the Big Four is the Big Four is because of original record sales and popularity. So people who want to come for me and tell me they love Overkill more than Anthrax, kick Anthrax out of the Big Four and put Exodus in. These bands are not comparable. Anthrax had 2 platinum singles on a platinum album before most bands had a gold record. It's nice to see Pantera in the previous groups, nice to see Slayer in there, nice to see Testament with good numbers, but we're not talking about the most popular bands of all time. We're talking about popular bands in a subgenre, legendary bands of a subgenre.
I want to talk about metal songs that have over 1 billion streams.
Okay.
This is actually really surprising. There are only 16 metal songs
to you
with over 1 billion streams. Now, if you think really hard, you can probably think of a few of them, but you might be surprised where they are on this list. We begin with Linkin Park's In the End, which has 2.8 billion streams. The song Numb by Linkin Park has 2.5 billion. And then we're down to number 3 on the list, which is Metallica, Enter Sandman, which has 1.8 billion streams, almost 1.9. System of a Down Chop Suey, 1.8 billion. Metallica's Nothing Else Matters, 1.5. Black Sabbath Paranoid, 1.5. Papa Roach, Last Resort, 1.4. At number 8, System of a Down, Toxicity, has 1.3. Linkin Park, What I've Done, 1.2 billion streams. Linkin Park and Jay-Z, Numb, has 1.2 billion streams. Linkin Park, Faint, has 1.1 billion. Then we're down to Rage, Killing in the Name, 1.1. Master of Puppets, 1.1. One Step Closer, 1 billion. Slipknot Duality has 1 billion. And Limp Bizkit Break Stuff has 1.02.
So, again, I don't think anybody that watches our channel that follows Ghost Cult would be surprised by any of these songs being this popular. Linkin Park has 6, 7 of those songs where Jay-Z sucks, and I don't think Jay-Z fans are really listening to that Linkin Park record, but they did together, or two EPs they did together. But yo, Dillinger Compound has arrived. Dillinger Compound, I am going hard at Rick Beato's Where Are the Metalheads? Love to get your take on this. We've got a couple of people in the chat that make music. Dillinger is a music fan, an aficionado, and an expert, and a community leader. I will give you all the praise and flowers, my friend. So we're talking about Rick, and I'm playing his video, which I normally wouldn't do, and maybe we'll get struck down for it. But I went on, made a good case why I do like Rick, and he is one of except for maybe Ola Englund and Eli Levy, he's really one of the few, and obviously Nick Nocturnal and Jared Dines and a few other people, but like professionally paid, well-known, historic musicians and producers and music industry experts. I have really no idea how Beato became as impactful as he is now. He rose to popularity during COVID. That's fair. He's a boomer. I think he was making music instructional videos. He was selling his, learn how to make music, learn music theory, learn how to do the studio, learn how to play. He plays guitar, bass, and drums. He's got gold records. I talked about this. He co-produced and engineered for Collective Soul, Seven Mary 3, STP out of Atlanta. He's got credits. Beato does have very good insights on why songs are hits and breaks them down well. That's a big amount why. And he's become, again, a very competent interviewer of people. So now his interviews are very popular, making my life harder because I could never get Maynard probably to do an interview with me. But I'm glad Maynard likes Rick enough to let him talk to him several times. So none of these, so Dillinger, just before you showed up, I don't know when you came in, Beato's I'm playing this 8-minute video about where the metalheads are gone. They're all gone. He has a fundamental lack of understanding about what metalheads, who we are and what we listen to. But okay, talked about the Billion Song Club. Nobody is surprised. And he didn't even count Guns N' Roses. Korn doesn't have a billion song. Tool came to Spotify in 2019, so they still don't have a billion song. They have a couple with a few 100,000. Maybe someday they'll get there. There's a few other bands that might get close. I think Metallica is closing in on a couple more. But Linkin Park with 6, 7 of those 15, 16 billion songs. Rick Rubin's show made more sense to me. That's true. Well, Rick Rubin's a wackadoo. And then I read the Ozzy book, and he's like, I honestly don't know why we paid that guy. So that's two people in Black Sabbath that are like, I wish we hadn't used Rick Rubin. We could have just hired Fiddleman, the engineer. Anyway, nobody would be surprised at these big new metal hits that were all over TRL, yet left and right. And there's a few others, Guns N' Roses. Nirvana's not on here because they're, he didn't count, they're not metal, but like rock, metal, punk adjacent, Green Day.
Streams. That is it. Now, why is that? What has happened to metal over the years? That reminds me of an article I read in EQ magazine from the year 2000 with producer Terry Date. If you don't know Terry Date produced bands like Deftones, Soundgarden, Pantera, Limp Bizkit, a lot of metal bands. Incredible producer. And the last question in the interview was, how do you feel about the current mainstream success of the really hard-sounding bands? Is it going to stick around for a while? Mind you, this is the year 2000. And he said, yeah, it'll stick around for about 7 years. Then something else will take over. Then the heavy stuff will come back around 7 years later. I've been doing this since the late 70s, and I think this is the third time I've seen heavy stuff come back around. It's really designed for 15 to 25-year-old males. As long as there are 15 to 25-year-old males and 63-year-old males, they're always going to want aggressive music. I know that's what I wanted to listen to at that age, and I still like listening to it.
Okay, if you go back to the first, he is quoting an article from 25 years ago. Oh my God, bro. Okay. One of Date's best records, Unearthed. Oh, dude, In the Eyes of Fire is fucking great. I love Unearthed. That is my jam. Terry Date, unfuckwithable, right? Great producer, legendary. Randall B. Dunn has come here. What's up? Riff Informativo is here. Thank you so much. So yeah, man, like honestly, Terry Date is incredible, and he's not wrong. It's true. Like he's not wrong. If you go back to iPod and Apple Music and iTunes culture, if you go to Rock Band culture, the game, which turned a lot of people on to heavy music, skate videos, all culturally, things come around in cycles. So to say that he's seen the cycle before, now we'll see it again, and we'll see it again later, that's not fucking revolutionary. That's a common denominator in musicology, of which, by the way, I have a degree in. Terry Date, Prong Cleansing, bro. Prong Cleansing is one of my favorite records. I should do like my all-time top favorite like metal records as a listicle on here sometime. I love Tommy Prong, and you can go see many of my interviews with him on our channel. So, Rick, man, I just like using this thing from 25 years ago as a basis for why metal is not a big deal anymore, because 15 to 25-year-olds are not listening to metal anymore. This is not true. I think it's untrue, but go ahead.
Batch of bands that are contemporary bands that I talked about at the beginning of the video. They're bands like Bring Me the Horizon, Ghost, Pierce the Veil, Falling in Reverse, Bad Omens, Five Finger Death Punch, Sleep Token. Those bands are not nearly as big as Metallica or Megadeth or Anthem.
Well, first of all, they never would be, because no other band will ever be as big as Metallica is for metal. Linkin Park, maybe. There's been a couple of others I thought maybe would have the legs and the longevity to do this. Nobody is Metallica. So right off the bat, to compare anybody to Metallica is not accurate. Again, Bring Me the Horizon, I Prevail, even Architects, Parkway Drive, who's not on here, because he probably doesn't know who the fuck they are, even though they're huge. I just don't see an apples-to-apples comparison. But okay, Megadeth, Five Finger Death Punch. Megadeth has been around 40-plus years. Five Finger Death Punch has been around 20 years. They're just not comparable. But okay, go ahead, Rick. Keep going. Digging yourself a hole, bro. I'm going to let you talk.
Thrax or Slayer, or even bands like System of a Down or Slipknot, any of the bands from the early 2000s or the late 90s or way back into the 80s.
Yeah, Slipknot is headlining arenas and stadiums all over the world. They headline metal festivals. They headline arenas. They have their own lifestyle website that sells tons of merch. They have their own festivals all over the world. So they were going to do cruises until the pandemic happened. System of a Down, as I mentioned, is having their biggest, the 2025 is statistically the biggest year in their career. What are you talking about, dude?
80s. These bands aren't even close to being that big. To put in perspective, Bring Me the Horizon, which is pretty much the biggest of these kind of post-metal or metalcore bands, with their 13.9 million monthly listeners on Spotify, Can You Feel My Heart has 796 million plays, or 800 million plays. But there's really very few, if any, that are even close to that. They just don't connect with kids in that age bracket, I don't think, like they did. It's a far smaller group. I think one of the reasons is that kids don't play instruments like they did. I really believe that. It's not that they don't like heavy music. It's that their connection to heavy music, a lot of people, was through playing. I know mine was, maybe because of social media and kids that just don't get into music like they did. It's not as much of the culture. A lot of young kids like to work out, do things like that. They watch sports, but
what do you think people are doing when they're working out, Rick? They're listening to metal. What are you talking about, dude? Like, this doesn't make any sense. You could say that culturally across every genre, that people have more options for entertainment than ever, and they're not just listening only to music. He is wild. Phil Anselmo said it best: the pulse of metal lies in the underground. That's my Phil Anselmo. He's definitely out of touch, though. To be fair, System of a Down may as well be cheaper at this point, considering how much. Yeah, well, we're never going to get a new album, but like, if they can stay getting along, Stormland, they're going to keep touring and making all that money. They're bringing in millions a show. I mean, that's
more into, they're into fitness and doing things like that. They're not into going to metal shows. I've got kids that are in that age range.
And I've got friends that have kids in that age range too.
Okay,
this is Mike. Mike has a couple teenagers.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, because I find, you know, whether if you're 15 and you just traded in Baby Shark for a little Boozy, there's not much edgy stuff happening with musicians, whether it's because they don't play music at home. And if they do play music at home, my God, they're in their bedroom, next to their parents' bedroom, fiddling around on a Line 6 Helix with their headphones on. They don't leave school, you know, raging from having a hard day at school, coming out being like, you know what, I'm gonna get with my boys and we're gonna just, you know, crush some Pepsi cans on our hand and make some drop C music and have a vibe. I mean, I think what we're missing right now is like a lifestyle, a vibe. Like, that's what Metallica had.
You know, we were talking about the 1999 Woodstock, the performance by Korn. And if you look at this, these are all teenagers. Look at, they're going crazy, moshing there. And the one thing that you don't see are phones.
Or parents.
Or parents.
You know, we went to things like Woodstock when we were 13, not just 15. It was a good.
Yeah, by the way, I went to Woodstock 99 and I was 27. So what the fuck are you talking about? But okay, I went to Woodstock 94 when I was 24. So like, or 23, whatever, fuck. But Jesus, this guy and his friend. This guy's got kind of a metal beard, but, you know, with his Atlanta Braves hat and his cable knit sweater, like he's probably at Rick's house, Rick's palatial fucking house or whatever the fuck this is.
Good time. And that's when you're at the age where you take chances and you really believe in things, and that's how society's built.
So what kind of music are they listening to, Mike?
Ooh, I mean, I would say Young Boy is up there. NBA Young Boy, and
no
then,
idea,
you know, Lil Boozy just dropped a couple tracks. I mean, which are good. I mean, I'm not against it. It's just, you know, where's the heavy guitars? Where's the feeling of, you know, rock and heavy music spoke to people that were outsiders and people that needed somewhere to go, and it was great. I mean, it was a good time, and I hope it comes back.
Love to know your thoughts. Hit subscribe.
Your thoughts are, this is insane. Okay, so Rick, man, so much to unpack here. I'm going to get rid of that and just put me back on. Oh my God, Rick. Oh my God, Rick. What the fuck, bro? I don't have words. So much to unpack. That guy, you know, maybe he has kids, he has teenagers. Rick has adult kids. Beato and Co are completely out to lunch and out of touch. Thank you, kids. Haha. And then my kids can pick out Alice in Chains, and if the guy's kids can't, that's on him. I completely agree. So I can't comment about kids are not coming home from school and making bands, because you are seeing, like, you know, certain things are, the proliferation of gear is bigger than ever. You don't need the best gear to learn how to make music. with friends or not. It helps if you have better gear, but it's not exclusive. I just gave some advice the other day on my show, which is like somebody asked about what kind of guitar to get on TikTok. And I was like, get a beater because you're just going to learn anyway. Get a beater to get proficient and then upgrade to the gear you want to have. But this whole shit is a garbage take. I'm just going to say Boomer's going to boomer. Okay, Boomer. And he's just wrong because there's two things at play. He's talking about the most popular bands. Volbeat, Sleep Token, one of the biggest bands right now, whether you hate them or not. Ghost, whether you hate them or not, are blatantly metal. Maybe they're not the metal you like, but they're metal. They came from metal. These bands are arena headline bands now. Volbeat, Sleep Token, Spirit Box, Deftones. Is there a whole wave of bands behind them getting ready to do that? I'm not sure. But the other thing that Rick is not taking into consideration, thumbs down, Rick, is, that's right, Gabe, but Anti-Monsbeast Gabe. The real conversation, hey, Rubber Band Man is here. What's up, man? We're just dogging Rick Beato's his metal, Where Are the Metalheads video. I'm just kind of wrapped up watching the whole video, but Skull Basher's also passing by. What's up, sir? You know, the other thing is there's an entire underground of metal that is not reliant on Spotify numbers, billion streams, popular video channels. There's a whole bunch of metal that has nothing to do with the mainstream. There's a whole bunch of metalheads who could not pick out a song of any band he talked about outside of Sabbath, Ozzy, Maiden, Metallica, Slayer, Motorhead, Anthrax, Megadeth, a few others. The vast majority of those metalcore bands, most extreme metalheads don't know who they are. Most death metal fans will laugh at them. Most extreme metal fans don't like Ghost. Think they call them BOC Scooby-Doo metal. They don't like Sleep Token. They can't feel it. I get it. It's too urban. It's too trip hop. It's too rap. It's too much rap production and auto-tune, which I fucking hate. Five Finger Death Punch is like watered down Pantera. I like the guys. I respect Ivan. And I don't think, I never thought they were an exceptionally great band. They just are the Walmart of rock and metal, just like Godsmack. Boring. Average. Just average. Get your own thing. But he's wrong because we are in the midst of getting together our albums of the year, and I had like 40 albums I was like whittling down 40 albums for 17, 18, 19, and 20. My 1 through 12 was locked. And some of those bands that were talked about today that had albums out last year will be on my personal top 20 and the Ghost Cult top 20. Then there was like 8 spots for like 40 fucking albums. And it was even forgetting albums that came out that I loved earlier in the year. And we're going to do a whole bunch of content and stuff around the albums of the year. And there's a whole bunch of people out there that are listening to black metal and hardcore and new metal bands and Knocked Loose he didn't mention, because he just doesn't understand what he's talking about. He's judging every band against Metallica and Metallica against Chapel Road and Metallica against Taylor Swift and Metallica against Bruno Mars. And these are not apples to apples as a comparison. And he should know that. And he should know, being a rock person and such a lover of classic rock. Listen, the Eagles are huge because they had nothing but a strings of hit records 50 years ago when records sold. And because of that, they are baked into the culture, like Zeppelin, of a legacy band from the time when records actually physically sold numbers. So when streaming came along, if your music was available on streaming, they were the first bands to be on streaming because they already had a catalog out in the universe and immediately racked up plays. So he's just fucking way wrong about this shit, honestly. So he did this video and he very cleverly put his devil horns up because he's a poser, and he has old James Hetfield and Sleep Token. You could not pick 2 better things for the thumbnail to trigger people. I'm not triggered. I'm just calling out his lack of understanding about what music inspires us. And some people only like mainstream bands. And explain the popularity of all the Danny Wimmer festivals, of Download Festival in the UK, of Bloodstock Open Air that we covered this year and every year since Ghost Cult has been a thing. Understand what these things are. These are humongously popular things. These are the most searched things on the internet right now, is when is the Aftershock lineup dropping. They had a huge, like their biggest year ever of pre-sales from this weekend of Black Friday weekend. There's like it's going to sell out every year, Aftershock virtually. You know, Metallica, you really can't compare them to other bands. There's never going to be another Metallica ever. You know, Foo Fighters are huge. Green Day transcended punk to become kind of a rock band. I saw Green Day this past year, and they had like a Metallica style show with punk songs, and it was interesting. I don't know that like if they hadn't been at the festival I was covering, I don't know if I could just afford $300 to go see them. And here's another thing, while he's talking about the popularity of these bands, Iron Maiden, which I wanted to talk about, is going to sell out this Iron Maiden tour. Now, it's not as many dates as it used to be, and it has to have Megadeth and Anthrax on some of it to make it viable, but like they're going to sell out all those shows at amphitheaters, 10 to 20,000 people a night. I saw Priest and Cooper with COC, and it was pretty damn sold out. So, like, it's not as out of touch and bad and dire as the Metalheads are still here. The Metalheads that were kids at Woodstock, hello, Woodstock 94, 99, I'm still here. I'm listening to better music now than I ever have. And there was so much good music that came out this year. It was hard to make a list. Yeah, man, Hell Ripper for sure. You know, dude, like, he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. Same thing with Spirit Box. Maybe why Spirit Box was able to do a song with Megan Thee Stallion, I don't care for her. Ask a question about why Megan Thee Stallion and Posty and Chapel Roan's Record Store Day releases were just still plentifully available, where you can't get the Dillinger Escape Plan one, which I failed to get at Dillinger. I'm going to go on the record market when I get my paycheck and check that out. But, yeah, I don't understand. Air to Madness, welcome back. I don't understand why he doesn't understand, because, like, he has the ability to, like, understand these things. And Spotify helps him make his case, but it's not a good case to make. You get me, y'all? Do you feel me? Did I come across correctly here? If I'm out of order, somebody tell me. If you want to come for me in the comments after this live stream is over, listen to the podcast, whatever, come find the post on the website, cool. But honestly, it's some clown shit. Slipknot is one of the biggest bands of all time. They just sold their catalog for $120 million, which means Deftones, System of a Down, Five Finger Death Punch, whether you like them or not, Linkin Park, all these bands can do this. Weberg is here. What's up, brother? You know, Slipknot just sold the rights to their music. That doesn't include future music. You know, maybe Slipknot has 10 more years as a band. Those guys are all in their mid-50s. You know, like early to mid-50s. Corey just turned 52, I think. Like, or his birthday's in a couple of days. Like, you know, like they're never going to be bigger than they are now, and they're not working as hard as they used to. And I don't understand why Rick doesn't understand. It just kind of confused me. System of a Down is as big now as ever. If they want to stay together and keep touring, that's enough to make enough money forever for them. And when they can't get along anymore, and they can't talk anymore, and they can't make music properly because Darren and Serge can't hang enough to make a record together that would work, they will sell the rights to their catalog for as much or more than Slipknot, because let's face it, the most popular System of a Down songs are more popular than Slipknot's. Just fucking wild. But anyway, that's my show. I wanted to get on and talk about this. It's been a crazy couple of weeks under the running board. Yep, that's what I wanted, bro. That's what I wanted. I wanted that. Oh, thanks, Brooklyn Miss. I appreciate you. You're on point too. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for being my real ones. I might come on tomorrow with another live stream. If not, you will definitely see me Thursday for the weekly ritual. Thanks for humoring me. It was a very nice turnout of people watching, and I really appreciate every single one of you, because I'm not Rick Beato. I don't have 4 million watchers in social medias and things. I can't get Maynard to do an interview with me. Maybe someday, myself or someone on the team. But I do appreciate Rick. And again, fuck AI and people like over-relying on AI, and fuck these copyright strike having record labels that don't understand what fair use is. And thanks for being here. And I hope everybody's good. And I will see you later in the week. I'm Keefe at Ghost Code Man. Check out ghostcodemag.com. If you're new here, like and subscribe, but most of you are not. I appreciate all of y'all. And that's my show. Thanks. Peace out. One of these turns it off.